In this demonstration, we are going to look at how to apply the high-low method to separate a mixed cost into its variable and fixed elements, and also how to develop the total cost formula for that mixed cost so we can predict the total cost at any given point of activity. If we look at our example problem, we see that transportation costs for XYZ are given below. We're going to apply the high-low method to this transportation cost data to determine the portion that's variable and the portion that's fixed, and then we'll develop the total cost formula for transportation. The high-low method says we need to take the high point of our total activity and the low point of our total activity and start our calculation there. So the high point for transportation costs for XYZ is right here in April at 90,000 miles and a total cost of $140,000. So 90,000 miles, $140,000. The low point is February at 50,000 miles and $80,000 in total cost. So the first step is determine the variable cost per unit, in this case per mile, of that cost. So the way we do that is to take the change in total cost between the high and the low point, 140,000 minus 80,000, divided by the change in activity between those points. So the 90,000 miles in April minus the 50,000 miles in February. That gives us a variable cost element of $1.50 per mile. We'll then use the variable cost per unit to determine what the fixed cost component of that cost is. And the way we do that is we in essence plug in this variable cost per unit to either the high or the low point to break out the portion that's variable, and whatever's left is fixed. So, for illustrative purposes, let's use the high point. So we take the total cost at the high point, $140,000, minus the portion that's variable. So that's $1.50 per mile, what we just calculated, times the 90,000 miles at that point. That tells us that $5,000 of transportation costs are fixed. Let's plug it into the low point real quick just to show that you'll get the same answer either way. So again, it's the total cost at that point minus the portion that's variable. So $1.50 per mile times the 50,000 miles at the low point is our same $5,000. So we can always represent our total cost as the fixed component, $5,000, plus the variable component times some quantity, in this case miles driven. So if, for example, we were to calculate our total cost of transportation at 75,000 miles, we could do so using this cost formula. We would just say $5,000 of that is fixed, plus $1.50 per mile times the 75,000 miles driven, and we would expect our transportation cost at this point to be a total of $117,500.